Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Andy, and today I'm going to be playing a quick game of Unpacking. I've played it before. I just wanted to play this just a little bit because I needed a slower game to have something to do while I wanted to talk about this movie that I saw today called 28 Years Later. I have never seen any of the other movies. I know that there's 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later. I actually did end up watching 28 Days Later like right before the movie started today, so that was interesting. The movie 28 Days Later before this one was not too bad. I think it said it was like critically acclaimed or something like that. Like it was pretty good. I saw a lot of people were pretty excited about watching this movie. I didn't really know what to expect. I'm not a big fan of zombie movies personally, but I was like, oh, I might as well. I'm curious. I just like horror movies in general, so I wanted to open up my horizon more to zombie movies. But 28 Days Later, I know had Killian Murphy. I'm pretty sure that's his name. Excuse me if I get it incorrect. But basically, it's about like an infection, of course, that runs infects a ton of people in the UK. I'm pretty sure it starts in, was it England first? And it was interesting because basically it starts off with these people who obviously are fighting for animals' rights. They're trying to save these chimps that are being experimented on in a science lab. Now, I was like, okay, that's interesting. That makes sense. It always usually these kind of movies usually kind of start with like an animal infection first. But once they got to the part where they were explaining what the infection was and that it was called rage, I was kind of like confused because I'm like, what do you mean you're infecting them with rage? Like, do you mean you're just getting them kind of like angry and then infecting them with something else? Like, I was kind of a little bit frustrated that I didn't know exactly what it was. And I guess maybe that wasn't the point of it. Maybe I didn't that wasn't important, but I like to know stuff like that. And once these people free them, or well, free at least one, that's when, of course, the infection starts. One woman gets bitten, then within like 10 to 20 seconds, you can change. And I'm like, okay, that's a pretty quick change because sometimes it takes a little bit where like the zombie has to, the infection has to slowly make its way through your body, and then you start doing slow changes and things like that. But no, it's pretty immediate. And I will say, like, I thought it was a not a bad movie. I won't say it was like my favorite. I felt like there was still some stuff that I couldn't quite understand, like what the heck was Killian's character doing in the hospital? I don't think that was like ever addressed because when he does talk about like what he remembered beforehand, it was basically like he was doing something completely unrelated to being in the hospital and then suddenly he was there. And maybe my best guess, honestly, is that maybe he was attacked and someone brought him into the hospital. But from there, it was kind of like beyond me why he was there. I for a moment thought like, oh, maybe he's one of those characters that are kind of like they've got this cure in their blood, like that kind of character. But that actually never was the thing. It just kind of ended how it ended, and then I was just like, "Oh, okay." I mean, it wasn't an awful ending. It wasn't horrific. It wasn't too bad. So now I'm aware of exactly what this infection, what the rage is, how it turns people, and everything to do with that. So I'm thinking that like, is it a direct sequel 28 years later? And not particularly. Like it starts off with a completely different set of people. It's a family and it's a bunch of kids like just sitting there watching Teletubbies. And then I was just like, okay, that's pretty funny. But then, like, while they're watching it, they look kind of frightened. Then all of a sudden, this like banging sound starts happening. It starts getting kind of crazy. The mom comes out trying to get the kids to run. I think a couple of kids, unfortunately, get caught up, and one kid makes it. And they live like right down this area from a church. And at the church is this dad who is the father of the church, the priest. And it was really interesting because he's thinking like this is the perfect like end times, like this is how it was meant to be, like, the whole like idea of like the world ends and specific people are going to be saved. Like that's, I feel like, what he thought it was. Like he was very like weird about it. I was like, okay, what's happening here? And he just kind of pushes his son like into this like hidey spot and gives him this rosary and just kind of tells him to hold on to it. And then the dad's like in the middle of this freaking church like, yes, yes. And I was like, what's going on here? It was really weird, but I was like, okay. And then like my favorite part, honest, not gonna lie, was the kid like clutching the rosary, like, Father, why have you forsaken me? And I love that kind of thing. Like, forsaken has to be my favorite phrase. Like, why have you forsaken me? So I'm thinking this movie is basically gonna like spin off and for what this kid is going to do, like what's his life like now that this happened, because it says 28 years later right after he says that. So I'm kind of like, okay, is that what we're going to watch, is his life? And no, it opens up to like a completely different kid, like not even like the kid of the one we just saw, just somebody else. So I was kind of like, okay, what was the point of that? Like, I feel like this guy or this kid, now probably an adult, like, we have to see basically what happens to him. Like, there has to be something else that's going on, right? But no, it just kind of goes on. I won't go into too much detail because I don't want to spoil anything, but it just kind of goes on with this journey of him and basically his life as a child during the time of this post-apocalyptic world and what it's been like for them 28 years later. It was a wild ride. Don't like, man, I did not expect a lot of stuff to happen with what happened. Part of it I almost couldn't really take seriously. I was like, okay, what am I watching right now? Like a lot of the scenes were like low key, like I guess I was supposed just a smidgen, just the shots of it, where when you're watching them kind of shoot these infected with this bow and arrow, it low key almost looked like I was watching somebody play a video game. I was like, why did they shoot it like that? And then like partway in the middle to the end, it got a bit more serious, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm picking up here. It doesn't look as crazy anymore. There's more of a storyline for this kid, and then once it gets near the end, it was very like emotional, very like it was just this whole scene with him and his mom. I won't go too much detail, and I almost cried. It was really sad. And then it got to the very, very end. I was like, okay, well now what the heck just happened? Like, I could have sworn I was literally just watching this emotional movie, and then it just kind of sprung up like this, and I'm like, who are you people? What is this? It was crazy. So I recommend if you're like into watching zombie stuff, or you're just really curious about how I'm explaining, or you want to know what the heck I'm even talking about, I recommend go watching it. Not because I think it's like the best movie ever, but I will say personally, I thought 28 years later was better than 28 days later. I liked the message and the story that it gave. I like how a lot more stuff happened. I think it was because it was more fighting in there compared to the first one, because I think in 28 days later they're basically just showing only Killian's character and a few other characters, not much of the infected roaming around, but that makes sense because it's just the beginning of everything. And 28 days later, it's so interesting to honestly watch how people are surviving after the effects of everything and how far it has reached. Because these people are like way in the highlands. I'm pretty sure, excuse me if I'm wrong, I think they are either Irish or Scottish or something of that. I'm so sorry if I'm incorrect. Please correct me in the comment section below. But yeah, they're in the highlands and then they still got some infected roaming around just in the woods, just there available. And I also, another thing that I thought was interesting was they always worried about being like in the, at least in 28 days later, they were worried about being eaten and watching them to see if the infected would starve. But what, from what I was watching, ain't nobody was getting eaten. Nobody got eaten. People were getting attacked and spat on and all of that stuff. Well, like the projectile vomiting blood craziness that happened. But other than that, I was just, yeah, it was interesting to say the least. Uh, but yeah, I, again, I would say if you're interested in watching something like that, I would say go ahead and watch it. I thought I kind of had quite a bit of fun. There was some funny parts, there were some crazy parts, things like that. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me yap and ramble about this movie. Sorry if it didn't sound super coherent or anything. I just had to get it out. And I wanted to talk about it more so, but I also didn't want to give any spoilers just in case somebody watching this was like, go see that movie. But if you're interested in more stuff like this, please let me know. And I can definitely do more movies that I definitely haven't seen and talk about that. So thank you for watching my channel once again. If you can, please like and subscribe. Make a comment down below. Uh, if you made it this far in the end, put some zombie emojis or give me some zombie movie recommendations. Don't recommend me Resident Evil. I saw all of those movies. I saw the some of the gameplays. So Resident Evil, a very popular one, but I already kind of know what happens in there. If there's any other ones that anybody can recommend. Oh, even like Korean ones too. I know those are super popular. I would love that. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend and a great rest of your evening. Bye bye.